Hi, and welcome to the Brisbane Professionals Podcast. This is a podcast brought to you by SMS Law, going through the legal secrets that will benefit you and your clients, as well as having a little bit of fun as we go. This podcast is designed to educate you on, number one, complicated legal terms that we will explain in an easy to understand manner. Two, to understand why you do things from a legal perspective in your business. And three, to help you develop a plan for the future success of your business. Our mission is to help empower small to medium-sized businesses around the world to get access to legal advice so that they can help build their communities and make the world a better place. Did you know that any business owner is on average 7 months away from losing everything? That is the average time that it takes from a successful business to fold when an aspect of their business is not set up correctly. This podcast is all about empowering you and your business with knowledge and tools to ensure that that doesn't happen to you or to your clients. Let's begin, shall we?
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Brisbane Professionals Podcast. My name's Craig Mason. I have with me, as always, Jeremy Stratton. Say hello to everyone, please, Jeremy.
Hi everyone, hope you're having a good day.
Absolutely. So at the moment, we wanted to talk about employees and employing new people into your team. And today's topic was what you need to consider with a new employee. We've come up with 5 things that we think you should consider when bringing on a new employee. There's obviously, this is not a extensive list. There's plenty of other things that you should consider, but these are the 5 things that we see as one of the most important to consider when bringing on a new employee. Jeremy, do you want to start with the first one that we've come up with?
Absolutely, thanks Craig. So the first one is, what can you afford? So when you're bringing on a new employee, obviously you've got to pay them a wage and super and all their tax and all the rest of it. So you need to work out what you can actually afford based on the income that you're generating for the business. So you need to consider that, and then you also need to consider, well, what income will this new person generate, and that will help determine what you can afford. As a general rule of thumb, if you've got about 50% of their wages for professional services for work for them to do, then that's probably about the right time for them to be employed, and then they can build up in that role further on. So work out what you can afford, and that's a really important thing to do. Craig, number 2.
Number 2 is about thinking about what your expectations are. So obviously, Jeremy just said you work out what you can afford, and then you want to work out what the expectations are from that employee. So what's their role? What things, what are they going to be doing on a day-to-day basis? Is there any, do they need to come with any certificates or qualifications or training, or are you going to provide all those sorts of things on the job? So you've got to think about what are your expectations from a employee coming into the business, what they've got, what they're bringing to the table, what is an absolute minimum that they're bringing, and then, as they always say, hire on attitude, not necessarily on skills. So what is it that you're expecting from that employee when they come into the business? That's the second one, and then that flows on to the third one, Jeremy, about training.
Yeah, so the third one really is an important thing, and something that I know you and I got wrong early in our business, and that's really thinking about how you're going to train them. So having a training plan in place and actually working out what they need to be trained on and how you're going to do it and what supervision they're going to have. So important, and something that we do now with everyone that comes on board is making sure that we have a plan of how we're going to train them, and that you make that plan fluid. Different people have different qualities, they have different ways of doing things, and a different experience. So they might not need to be trained in some ways, but they might need to be trained in other ways. So having a plan of how you're going to train them, something that I wish we'd done from the beginning, but I know it's part of the learning process, and people listening to this should make sure they've got that plan in place.
Excellent. So you've done all those sorts of things, and you've got a short list, I guess, of potential employees. Most occasions, an employee or a prospective employee or candidate, or whatever you want to call it, will give some references, and we'd encourage everyone to check those references thoroughly. Make the calls, get a list of questions that you want to ask the referee. Obviously, people don't put down referees that may not necessarily give them a good rap, but still, you need to check those references thoroughly. Make sure they actually do exist, obviously. It's a big one, like a Seinfeld episode from George, but make sure that you check those references, have a list of questions, talk to the referees. You'll get some valuable insight into the candidates, and that might be the way that you can narrow your shortlist down to one actual job offer that you can make to that person. So check references thoroughly. The last one, Jeremy.
I was just going to say that if you're going to hire George Costanza, that's the kind of attitude that you probably don't want to have, depending on the type of business that you've got. The last one was actually something I heard on a podcast recently, and it really articulated a principle that I think is really important, and that's to think about, will the person zap or sap you? So will they zap you, give you a boost of energy, or will they sap you and take your energy from you? I thought this was a really good way of thinking about employees, and it may be something that you may not know straight away, but if you've got any experience with hiring people, you can probably tell who's going to be a good employee, who you're going to be able to get a lot out of and really zap you going forward, or if they're going to sap you of your energy because you're constantly dealing with issues. So I think that's a really good filter to put people through, not just when you're bringing them on, but also over the years of them being an employee of yours. So Craig, that's it. That's our 5 things to consider with a new employee.
Excellent. All right. That is it for today. As I said at the beginning, important to look at, make sure when you're bringing on someone new, you go consider these sorts of things, because you're bringing someone into the team that may be hard to extract down the path. So you want to make sure it's a good fit. Thank you for joining us for today. Please, if you can, jump on and rate and review the podcast. That's the way to get it out there so other people can see that review and start following us and subscribing to us as well. To keep up to date with any other information that we release, go to the social platforms, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Follow us on there. Like us on Facebook. Link with us on LinkedIn. We share information through those platforms throughout the time as well. So, yeah, as I said, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
See you next